Hello and welcome to Season 9, Episode 7 of the Euphoria podcast. If you're in the land of YouTube, one of our many platforms alongside Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud, you might see in person our special guest this week. None other than Broken Blade. Thank you for joining us, Broken Blade. We found out you're an early riser, but usually we have to pull pros from their bed, drag them here half awake, pump them full of Red Bull, and then pray that they can put a good show on. But it seems like you're a pretty early riser.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always up early, which is good, and happy to be on the show with you guys.
The early grind set. Wake up before scrims, pop a couple solo queues, your mid laner wakes up, you already got 40 LP, and you're like, sup, dude?
Or lost 40 LP.
Or lost 40 LP.
Why are you asleep, dude?
Wake up earlier.
You're not taking things seriously enough. Yeah. I can see it. Could go either way. Are you a tilter? I've never known this. Are you a solo queue tilter?
Very quick question.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it because this is why I can't play solo queue is I tilt so quickly. It's like emotionally, I'm like, if I come off 4 wins, I'm like, I'm a god. I'm the greatest human being to have ever existed. My whole day is made. I come off 4 losses. I'm like, what's even the point, man? Why do I even work?
We're just space.
What is money even? Why do I do this to my? It's I'm a tilter is what I'm saying here. So how are you affected?
I think. If you would play with me in a team, people would say I'm a tilter because if I rage, I only rage outside of the game. I never use chat really because I've grown out of it.
Sure.
But usually I don't tilt. Sometimes though, it does hit me when I'm really trying to win and it just doesn't work. Then I can sometimes get frustrated. Actually, it happened in the SK day where we played them, where I played 5 games of solo queue. I don't play too much in game days. But I lost every game, and I tried really hard, and then I took Janko's advice. I'll just not care anymore about solo queue in all game days, and after that, it went a lot better. But that day, I was for sure a bit frustrated, which is not good, right? When you're playing games.
There is a age-old philosophy of losing solo queue win on stage, but you have to convince yourself with that fake smile with the mask on. You lost 5 solo queue games. You win on stage.
The crying behind the smiley face. To be fair, I'm not a pro, so I don't know. But all I'll say is that there's a philosophy for everything I've heard. It's like, losing scrims when on stage, lose your lane. It's just a matchup. Yeah, I just feel like being a pro is just making up new excuses and trying to get enough other pros to agree with you so you can call it a philosophy.
And they'll use it as well. Yeah. But you're on the human, right? I mean, you look at some of the LPL behind the scenes videos as well when they're at Worlds and where you're in competitive games or you're really trying to win, people are just looking at each other like, why do we even pick GP if this guy can't even lane and he's your teammate and he's right next to you,
Yeah.
And the reason you're doing it is, yes, you're tilted, but it is for the betterment, because if you keep it inside, then obviously you're just going to be destructive.
Sure. Yeah, I think how you give feedback is also important.
Yeah.
But who am I? I haven't been in that high pressure environment, so I'm not going to judge. Let's talk about that SK game though, man. Let's talk about G2 a little bit this week. It was a little shaky. A little shaky. The SK game, we were talking a little before the podcast started, but maybe to recap, what do you think actually went wrong in that game? What actually happened there to have it be a loss in the end?
Well, I think the game was actually going really well in our favor. I was playing Gwen against Graves, which is usually what people play into Gwen, but I wanted to play Gwen into Graves that game because it was just a very good pick. They had, I think, 3 very low range champs. So I was like, okay, guys, if I get to 2 items, I'm just going to carry, right? And then I got to 2 items with a stopwatch. And then we had that one Drake fight where we were, I think, 1k gold ahead. And I think we just played that fight really, really poorly. I think everything that could go bad went bad. And then SK actually played pretty well afterwards, I have to say. I definitely didn't expect them to be that tough of an opponent, right? After they get a lead. Usually against bad teams, usually what you do when you're good, you would just wait for them to make a mistake because that's just bound to happen, right? But they didn't actually do many mistakes and they actually closed out the game pretty well. So it was kind of hard to come back, especially if they had Jinx Orianna against Aphelios, who's just lower range against those 2 carries. And so Aphelios couldn't carry, I couldn't really carry because I needed someone to go in. And Jarvan was also really behind in items compared to the carry, so he would just get 1 popped as well. So it was just really hard to come back after a certain point. Jankos had that clutch Nash steal, right, which got us a bit back into the game. And I think if that didn't happen, we would probably lost 5 to 10 minutes earlier, but we tried our best, and unfortunately, we couldn't turn it around.
To be fair, I was caught off guard too by how well SK played with the lead because, again, we've been tracking this all season, and they just have not been getting leads. They've been losing so catastrophically every early game we didn't really get to see that side of them. We got to see it 2 times this week, obviously against BDS as well, and I was definitely caught off guard. But that was sadly for you, the difficulty didn't stop there, because I feel like that game was like neck and neck, and yes, there were some mistakes, but like ultimately maybe you had a little bit more agency. But the Fnatic game was brutal, because we looked at your draft, we were casting this game, and we're like, oh, great. We've got narratives, we've got gameplay stories. We're like, you're clearly set up to play top side. Fnatic are clearly set up to play bot side. Clash of styles. We're like so hyped.
The juice is there. It's flowing.
We're getting pumped, and then we get into game, and things get rough in bot lane pretty fast. And I know you're living on your top lane island at that point, but like, what happened from your perspective?
As I mentioned earlier with Caedrel, right? I think we had really good success on Jace Rice and the diving jungler. Usually, it doesn't really matter what the jungler is, but Volibear obviously one of the strongest early game divers. And I think we were also playing for that. But then in the game, something happened that changed our game plan, which was going bot and trying to cheese gank. And I think there was like a little miscommunication of like when they got level 2. And they got level 2 pretty late. So Volibear started like wasting a bit of his time, right? And then we also didn't really talk about Diana could invade our top side, because I had to push. I could have probably stopped Diana from taking too many camps. I think she took all 3, if I'm not wrong.
I think she took red Krugs, and she was doing Krugs as you were like having top push and chilling in the river. I think you were like, asking so probably or communicating like, where's Diana, what's happening?
That was like 2 camps, which is really big, right? Anyways, on our game plan was to dive top, and I think we could have probably just dove top like 3v3 or 3v2, or even took Diana's camps instead. But things like that do happen, right? And I think after that, we still tried to play to our comp. But I think Fnatic, they played all the champs that they wanted to play, right? Maybe not like Pyke and TF is just what they love to play. And I think everyone else just played their parts as well. I think Razork messed up a little bit in some points of the game. But it doesn't really...
There's a highlight reel, and I love Razork, and I think that like he did a lot of things well that game, but definitely he's going to the practice tool for flash Diana ults on 0 ping. Like that man was playing on 60 ping with, I feel like, with the way I think he thought he was input buffering a Diana ult, and instead he was just ulting way too early. But like ultimately the team won the game. The last one he got was super good against you guys, but those first 2 I was like,
it's kind of funny, the domino effect of the game, right? It's like you want to play topside, you want to stack early waves and like dive or push him off tower or get TP advantage, right? But then one small cheese gank bot, losing your topside camps, and now you're just on the back foot permanently when you're playing like this comp with Jace Rise, where I presume it's just dive top early, get Jace out of lane, get Jace ahead, and then that's how you basically win.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think also the enemy team comp wasn't really too bad against Jace, right? Because they did have TF. TF Camille is like Camille Jace matchup is not really in favor of Camille. I think Jace wins that lane 1v1, but you do want to gank that lane, right?
Yep.
Which is supposedly good against Fnatic, because Fnatic usually goes bot lane with their resources. And we did still get a dive off, which was really good for the game. Like Camille did lose a lot, but it didn't actually end up being too big of an advantage that just allowed me to carry the game, really. Also, Pyke roaming the map and TF always being able to pressure after the early game just makes me not having side pressure, right? So I always try to group as much as possible, but even grouped against a team that is not strong group, we lost to 5v5.
Yeah.
So there's not really many options after that, right?
Yeah.
But we still have to try, right? And I think we did try our best. But I think at a certain point, Fnatic just played better, and they did deserve to win that game. I think if we were ever to play against them again, I think we're probably going to do a lot better than what we showed, right? So I'm definitely excited if you're going to play them, that we're going to probably do a lot better, you know?
Yeah, I feel like when we look at those comps, side lane would be so destructive when you're playing like Jace Rise versus like Camille TF Pyke. It's like whoever controls the side lane kind of wins the game, but you can get TF ult on at any second with Camille just like cheesing in a bush through lane or something, or Pyke getting one turn, and then Caps can do the same kind of thing where you like Rise ults behind you and you have one push into Camille. So I feel like comms over side lane must be a bit difficult that game.
I just feel like, yeah, if the Pyke lane gets ahead and Pyke gets to do whatever he wants, gets early Umbral, and you've got a Twisted Fate in that game, it's so easy. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. You just rock up with a gold card, point and click into infinite CC, and it's just actually unplayable inside. But I mean, this Rise Jace combo, a ton of teams are getting it. But to be honest, I was surprised that they got this much value out of TF. What's your read on TF right now? Because I think that we saw the nerfs. We thought maybe he was going to drop off more. Obviously, gold card ult, always going to be super valuable. I thought the nerfs would hit him harder than this because they did tank his solo queue win rate a lot. Some of that was due to a bug with like the auto attack on an empowered card, but So it came up a little bit, but I was expecting him to be useless, but he still looks like super OP.
Well, I do think that TF has always its place because it's just so annoying to play against. I feel like every pro player hates to play against TF, other than the mid laner itself, because he doesn't really get ported on mid, right? So I think he does have his place, but I also think he has more counterplay now in terms of having, like, you just have to allow yourself to get ported on.
Mm-hmm.
So a mid laner can just like outscale him at some point and actually start having pressure, or you can play 2v2 mid, because TF it does have some decent 2v2s with like TF Lee Sin, for example, but I think there's many more ways to beat him now and also outscale him. So if you do pick lanes that just outscale and are safe against TF, you should usually just win the game. But it does get annoying when the TF who's not supposed to get ahead in early, or the lanes who are not supposed to get ahead early are getting ahead early. Then TF just helps you getting even more ahead. So I don't even think that TF is the one really putting other people ahead. It's more
you put TF ahead and then he pays it back, kind of.
Kind of. It's like if other lanes get ahead by like default, then TF just makes them even stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But TF, I think, does make lanes stronger if they're 50-50. But if you do play to not get like dove, not get ported on, then I think TF doesn't actually have much of a choice than to just get outlaned at some point. And I think there's many like Victor or Orianna, at some point they will just outpressure TF. And I think as a team, you have to be very disciplined to play against TF. That's why I think TF is so strong, especially against weaker teams who don't have that much discipline, who don't have that much good communication. So I do think he still has his place, you know.
So like in a perfect world, let's say, and like LS always likes to talk about like perfect League of Legends, you know, like the perfect, everybody's scaling, everybody's chilling. Like TF, not that big of a deal. But when you take in like individual mistakes, communication errors, lanes not going perfectly, suddenly TF is just a lot stronger than he should be.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think Fnatic, for example, is a really good TF team. So I think against them, it might be even a good choice to even ban that champion because they are just playing real well with it. Also, they are playing volatile lanes. Against us, at least, they played Camille, Pyke, which are just making your lanes volatile.
If Hellsang doesn't pop off in that level 1, that lane is like actually unplayable for him. It's so hard.
Yeah.
The story of TF versus G2 goes back. It's split already now.
Actually, Jankos makes fun of it sometimes. But yeah. I do think it's like really playable, but some teams are like stronger with it than other teams.
Yeah, I guess it's got like communication on roaming timers, and it's like, I mean, people look at TF and TF hasn't pressed ult for 20 minutes. He's doing nothing. Yes, sometimes, but a lot of times, like the pressure of TF ult is always enough to make a lane that is ahead for the enemy team, like a Jace Camille, for example. Respect TF ult a lot. Every single time he's missing, you put one pink ward on one side of your lane in mid. Midwave's dead, and you're sitting on out of vision. Now Jace can't really push too much unless he has like his jungle mid top side, so it does give you windows where the enemy team having a winning lane has to play a lot more respectful. And until you find that window, then it's explosive, I think.
And I love these kind of things because as a bad player, I can use them in solo queue. Like when I play Karthus, I'm holding ult for the pressure. Or when I play Blitzcrank, I'm holding hook because it's zoning the AD carry. Not
it's true though, but holding Blitzcrank hook is one of the most...
No, I know it is true.
It's one of the most ankle-breaking things ever. When the Blitzcrank's running at you with W and he's like in melee range and you're trying to... It's just, I don't know, it breaks
sweating.
your brain.
You're
like,
sweating. Where's the hook going to go?
And he never uses it, so every second you're like, your blood pressure's getting high. You're like, oh my god.
Also great for bad Blitzcrank players who want an excuse for being bad. Just hold the hook.
And then imagine the Giga Chad walks up, you like try to dodge, you flash away, and he never even tosses it, and he just walks away. Just bad guys walks away from explosions.
You gotta respect it. The other team that I want to talk about a lot this week is Misfits, because they continue to do well, and I kind of keep not expecting it, and it just keeps happening. They just keep winning against teams that I would normally expect to outperform them. So now I'm fully on the Misfits hype train. I'm convinced they're pretty good. But Comp said on PGL with us on Saturday that he thinks that right now Misfits are the second best team in the league. How do you feel about that? What do you think about Misfits right now? Are you as surprised as I am that they're doing this well?
I do think that Misfits is better than like a lot of the other teams in the LEC. I don't know if they're the second best team. I can't really say because I don't really know how teams play at their peak yet, right? I think we will probably see that in playoffs. I do think that Misfits has their style of playing, which is usually the mid lane just carries, right?
That's a style.
Yeah, I mean, that is right. And I think not only Vizio, but I also think Neon is playing pretty well. I think when he gets his Jinx, especially, I remember in Schalke he also liked to play Jinx. Towards the end, like obviously we went 10th place, right? So we couldn't get to show much, but I did think also back in the day that Neon was very good mechanically. And he seems to be learning even more now. And I think his support is also good. Mercer, I think he's a good rookie actually. Also very talented. And I think the jungler has also his key picks, which is like Lee Sin. I think he plays well on Lee Sin. But I think they have I think it's not too hard to make a strategy to beat them. Obviously, they did win 9 times, right?
Yeah,
and,
sure.
We only won 8 times. But I think if you can shut down Vithio, I think that will hit their team really hard compared to other teams. You can make an argument that if you target topside against our team, that we're also weaker, right? Because we are playing topside a lot. But I don't think it's just me that is always ahead. It's usually also mid jungle and sometimes even bot. Like we had games where bot lane was also carrying. But I think in Misfits, it's usually mid carries or he doesn't carry, right? That's what I feel like at least. And I think Vithio is playing really, really well. Mainly because I think he just puts a lot of effort in actually winning, right? And he plays a shit ton of solo queue, which I respect as a player. I think it's good to see. I think it also motivates other players, right? But yeah, I think Misfits, are they the second best team? I don't know. I would actually say that I'm not even sure. I think that I think Fnatic is really good. I think Rogue is really good. I think Vitality is also really good, even though the standings are not showing that. I think we are also pretty good. Actually, I did have a conversation with some of my teammates that I think the LEC is actually pretty good. They have just a lot of good teams, actually. I think even Excel is starting to do really well. And it's just great to see, there's a lot of competition. And obviously we want to be first, but the competition is nice, so it just motivates everybody to be even better. We also have a bot lane who's rather new to the scene, right?
Yeah.
Which is also great to see them develop, see them getting better. It's just I think it makes me happy, I think it makes everyone else happy. So it's good to see.
It makes me happy too, because I think there's a lot of negativity floating around, and there definitely was after because I think there were a lot of small mechanical errors, maybe, or what at least to the audience would appear to be mechanical errors in your fights in the Fnatic G2 game, and people are already so doom and gloom. You know what I mean? The thing is we won MSI once, and now that's the only thing anyone could talk about, me included. I'm a part of the problem for sure. But now anytime anything's less than that, they're we're doomed internationally. Yeah. It's all that matters.
It's classic, isn't it? It's Spring Split. I think every Spring Split is kind of similar, where it's the vibes are similar, where it's maybe we're going to suck international, the meta's boring and stale. But then you look back to last year, and it's all of these arguments apply to last year too. Where we watched Udyr Hecarim every single game for an entire 4 or 5 weeks, and everyone's oh, this meta's so boring. And then you look at this year, and everyone's oh, I missed last year's meta. It's guys, this time last year it sucked. Summer meta is always more fun because there's a Worlds patch, and spring meta is always a lot slower. Every summer meta, towards the end of playoffs, is always either a big jungle change or some kind of solo lane change, so the game just looks different, or there's randomly a Xayah Kai'Sa meta out of nowhere.
Yeah, I would love a not Aphelios Jinx meta. No offense to Neon, who's doing very well. There's a lot of players who are doing very well in this meta, and I'm sure they would be sad to lose the Jinx Aphelios. But I would love some AD carries that are a little more explosive.
About that Jinx thing, what I was going to say is, BB just touched on it about Misfits shutting down BTO, and you can say well, we're a topside team, you just have to shut down our topside. I think the only real example you have of that so far in this split is Astralis versus Fnatic, where they just said the only person who can carry is Fnatic's bot lane, and they just literally 3-man bot every wave with their jungler hovering every single time, support jungle teaming up, getting bot side vision, and you could see how neutered Fnatic was when their bot lane was weaker. I think that's a good example of how to shut down Fnatic, but I think teams have different ways of approaching it. You can play to your strength, or you can play to their strengths, right? It's just a case of where you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I feel teams are still pretty young in their development. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, Broken Blade, but it just feels like a lot of teams are playing one way pretty consistently right now in spring, and I expect that'll expand as we get into best of fives just out of necessity. But it feels like you said it. You guys are a topside team. Fnatic clear a bot side team. Misfits are clearly playing through mid. I don't know, what would we say Vitality?
But the thing is, it applies to every region, I feel as well. If you look at T1, for example, they're a very bot-centric team. Always have been kind of a bot-centric team. They don't really play too much towards Zeus, especially with the new top lane. Akana, they did a little bit. Zeus, not so much, unless he has some kind of Jace matchup, which is a bit rare these days. Weibo Gaming is the team with now the Shy. They're just a heavy topside team. Teams in spring around the world have almost a one-dimensional playstyle. And if they are flexible, then they're probably not even first place right now.
Is it necessity of the meta that there's just so many lanes that demand resources right now that you just have to pick a side to play to? Because I'm trying to think back, because I feel like we've had teams that have had more flexibility than that, teams that have been able to adjust almost entirely based on draft as to what side of the map they want to play to. But I mean, I'm thinking now there's like not really any Orns. Yeah, Odoamne's played it once or twice. There's not really any, like Senna being nerfed is obviously a big deal because there you have your weak side bot laner. So I'm just trying to think if this is like, why is it this way? Is it just spring? Is it just people ramping up, or is it a product of the meta? That's kind of what I'm thinking about.
I think it's more so that when you're scrimming, right, and you see what games you're winning and what games you're kind of losing, you kind of go from there and see, okay, are we winning more games playing through mid, top, bot, or if the laners are playing for the jungle, right? That can also happen, which is rather rare these days for the jungle. But yeah, I think it's mainly that, and also when you're like building teams, you usually build them knowing what you kind of want to do with the team. Obviously, things change, and I think also our team, at least the last couple of weeks, we did put a lot of effort on knowing how to play around bot more. So that is going to be something really interesting and nice to see once we get fully good at it, you know. And the good thing about my team, at least, is that we're really open about everything pretty much, and we talk about a lot of things. And if you think that, for example, playing a game and picking that champion or playing towards top side, like for example, the Jinx Aphelios meta is really about who gets ahead in the Jinx Aphelios meta, right? And because we played so much top side, I didn't know as a top laner that if Jinx or Aphelios gets ahead, then they're just going to take over the game pretty much, unless there's like another really big factor that is going to like say otherwise, right? But we learned that actually pretty recently, like 2-3 weeks ago, actually, that matchup was very, very important. And if you don't have the matchup, you can do other stuff on the map. But you do want to protect those kind of champions on the bot lane, at least not go too far behind. And I think that is really helpful for any team, really, to just be open about things, because there can be scenarios, right, where a player is more egocentric and says, no, this is wrong, you have to come top, or stuff like that. That is why I really like the players on my team. Especially Jankos. Jankos is really, really open about a lot of things, and he also gives open criticism, which I also do, right? It's really nice to see. And if I'd ever do bad, he tells me, hey, you trolled this, and not in a toxic way, but in a professional way. And I think that's a good line to start from for especially the newer players that we have, right? And I think it did already help them get better, and also help me get better, right? And also Caps is obviously just as professional when it comes to things like that. And obviously there's always days where someone is more quiet, or less quiet as well,
sure,
right? So it's definitely good to see. And I think the things that are just important for any team in spring is getting on the same page. I think that is like the most important thing. And if you go to summer, usually, obviously there's always new patches, but you usually want to go to the direction of getting same page, learning how to learn about the game, because every individual is different, right? He thinks differently, comes from a different culture and stuff. So it's always different how to teach someone. And I think learning that as a team is going to be the very first thing that makes you a real team, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's also important to learn, like, once you've got your playstyle, top side, bot side, mid jungle, whatever it may be, like V5, mid jungle and stuff like this, how do we win the game with it, right? So like we talked about T1 a little bit, they play towards bot side maybe. How do they win? Do they just win just lane kingdom bot? Well, not the most of the times. Like if they're playing like a Caitlyn lane, yes, but what you'll see happen is Keria leaves lane, goes towards mid, roams around the map, Owner then goes top side and lane ganks top a lot, and Keria's already there at Herald, like, and Gomushi's safe where he's doing his own thing, and bot lane being ahead makes it so they can make the first play top side, right? I guess it's similar for you guys when you're ahead. You can get lane kingdom, or with Jace, you can get a tower and a Herald, but then how do you win the game afterwards, right? Like you're pushing out sides, moving mid, grouping, or you're pressuring aside. Even when you're behind against SK, you're playing Gwen and you're behind, but you're still almost ending the game on a side lane. So having that clear win condition, once you've got that identity established, is really important.
Yeah, that makes a perfect sense. You keep going into these little tangents about your team, which I love, because I want to talk to you about G2. But just to round out our discussion from last week, and after we talk about G2, we will be able to talk about some more teams looking forward, because obviously the race for playoffs is pretty tight. But EUphoria MVP, we gotta have one.
I already have one.
You already have one.
Yeah.
You're a part of this discussion. Now, I'm glad that your team didn't go 2-0 last week. I'm not going to lie.
Because we can't get convinced.
Because we're like absolutely spineless. The second we're such keyboard warriors. The second you're like here in person, if you went 2-0 and you're like, guys, you don't understand. Flack needs MVP. We'd be like, I don't know if we can do that, but we have to do that.
This is the 1 week where I think it's pretty clear, because like, the Perks week, he almost had me. He did have me at one point. He did have you.
You lost in rock, paper, scissors. Yeah. It's an honorable award. It's a real award. totally credible.
The upset week, did he have us?
He got us.
He got us as well. God damn it, he got us good. So we're 2 for 2 on getting got. But yeah, I think VTO.
It's VTO. Yeah. I don't know how you feel. I mean, like, and remember, MVP, you can have a different definition you want. I think some people look at it as the best performing player in the league, and for me, I look at it as the most valuable player, the most important player to a team's success in any given week.
I mean, I totally agree. I think VTO has been playing pretty well. We talked about it earlier as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just been a solid rock for that team. He always performs, especially when he needs to, right? And I think he just knows how to play his lanes, which is really good to see from a player who's not even, you wouldn't call him a veteran, right? It's like he's been playing for 1.5 years now. So he's been putting in the work, right? He's like, in the first year he was looking great in some games, right? But this year he's been doing exceptionally well in many games, which is great to see. I think many people or many new people can or players can take a example out of it. Hopefully he'll be able to keep performing like that. Maybe not against us next week, but I think it's great to see, and I think he probably deserves it.
Yeah, I think so. I think watching him develop has been really interesting because he came into the league and he was the Zoe kid for that one game, and everyone was like, "Yeah, VTO one game," and people banned Zoe, and he was kind of really quiet for the rest of the split. He started picking up Victor, and when Razork started ganking his lane last year a lot more, and they started trying to play through him more, I think Misfits generally had more success, but he felt like that guy who needed that attention. He didn't feel like a rock. He felt like a good carry, but he felt like a guy that if you didn't invest in him, you weren't going to see any return on that. You know what I mean? And now it feels like literally no matter what happens, no matter what champion he's playing, you know, whether it's something as predictable as like a Corki or a Rise or something as like a Silas, he just seems to make an impact. So yeah, shout out to VTO. In the running, I think, for overall MVP as well. At this point, depending on where Misfits finish and depending on who else steps up. If SK make a miracle run, it's probably Gilius, to be honest with you.
SK just make it happen, or Astralis. No, Astralis can't make it happen. Is Astralis out?
They're mathematically.
Are we going to pull one out for Astralis on the podcast?
We have 5 games left, and five games left for each team, which means there's still like a million scenarios.
Well, they have 11 losses, so
I think they're probably mathematically because it's tiebreakers. I don't know.
Okay, look, we'll pull one out for them next week.
The stats team will tell me when someone's mathematically out. The only thing I know is Rogue is mathematically in. Because in order to know when people are out, I have to know how all the tiebreaker rules work, and I do my best to forget those, except for when I actually need to know what they are.
Agreed. No, I mean VTO super flexible, draft, in game, everything. You can play for him, you can play away from him. He'll play to you. Like, this guy was every style. You can imagine he's basically doing. From Rise Corki to like Silas Akali to things like Oriana Victor, just playing mages. Even last week, I'm not much of like a results-based person, but last week I think he didn't even have a single death. He was 5-0-2 on Corki.
The Rise game was really
15
impressive.
On Rise.
Yeah, because the Rise game was a bloodbath.
Yeah, because he like everyone was fighting. I don't know how many kills there was, but there was over 30, I want to say, or 25. And he was the only one who was just like in every fight, but not dying in every one of their fights, you know, not getting sucked into the end.
Yep. Also, Fimble Winter Rise, really great, super balanced.
Yeah. Actually, I do think there's some things that need to get removed from the game, which is one, I think, is Hullbreaker. It needs to.
Let's talk about Hullbreaker for a second.
Yeah, this is a great segue. We can go to G2 after this. Let's talk about Hullbreaker. This is funny.
What is going on with this item? Because at first, when I see Graves build it, I'm like, he's tanky, he's split pushing, he's side lane, sure. But then when I see the Camilles and Jaces build it, I know something's wrong with that item.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think Riot ever wanted to design an item that everybody just has to buy when an enemy guy buys it, right? Because I feel like if you rush Hullbreaker and the enemy doesn't, you're just gonna win lane out of just buying the better item, right?
Do you remember the Banner of Command meta?
Yeah,
where
exactly.
Enemy tops were rushing Banner of Command, and if you didn't, you lost, and you had to take minion dematerializer because of it. Is it like that?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And you build it on every champ. Like, you could build it on I think, like, I played against Akali top in solo queue. And he built Hullbreaker, and I could not believe it. But he just like rolled me. And I was playing Akshan with Hullbreaker and Ignite, and I was losing lane. And I had Hullbreaker, and he had Hullbreaker, and he would just one shot me, and I just couldn't do anything. So I was actually right after that. I rushed to Dylan and said, "Dylan, we need to play Hullbreaker Akali." And he looked at me weird. It's like, no, we're not gonna play that. But I do think that item is like I think it has like 200% item like goal value.
So it's around 116% gold efficiency when you're with your team. and it goes up to like what 180, 190 when you
so it's
when you're alone.
Because the resistances portion that you get of it scales with your level. It obviously the value increases the higher level you are, but it's 143 at level 1. Not that you'd ever have a Hullbreaker at level 1, but then scales up to 198. So,
dude, this item, man.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I don't know why I have to play against it as a top laner. So you have to join in, you know. Like, you don't want to buy it, but you have to join in because it's so broken. And I don't think it should ever be in the game. You know?
It's one of those things where if they buy it, I buy it. And if you don't buy it, I won't buy it. Maybe you need some kind of gentleman's agreement in top lane where it's like, good sir, just come in. Shall we rush on normal items? And then that guy is like, sure. And then he comes back to base, comes back to lane with a phage and a pickaxe and like, excuse me? You know, this item is
no,
just...
sir, I swear I'm building 2 other items completely unrelated.
It's good base stats.
Yeah, so this is funny because we had the designer, we had Jeevan on the podcast last season, and one of the big things that he was saying for pro play, the thing that he was asking for, he was like begging. He was like, please just use Hullbreaker. He's like, it's so strong. And this item is basically untouched since it came out. It got a pretty decent buff, and then it got another small buff on 11.17. So 11.15, pretty decent buff. It was added in 13, 11.17 got the health buff. He's like, there are viable Hullbreaker strategies in the game. Please use them. So the warning was there. It's been OP for a very long period of time, but I completely agree with you. I think it's interesting because it feels to me like when they made this item, they wanted to be able to reward split pushing in a world where you've got like objective bounties and clearly like the game is going more and more towards team play rather than just like players have obviously been complaining forever. I can't solo carry the game anymore, you know, because of like you got kill bounties, you get all this. It's pretty hard to just be Zed like you were in season 4, season 5, and just one shot 8 people in a row and win the game, you know. But that said, when the item is super gold effective without the buff, ridiculously gold effective with the buff, to the point where it's not even about are you split pushing anymore. It's about you have to buy it to exist in the lane. I agree. I think it's dumb as hell.
Yeah, because you can have like team fighting-esque champs, like I'll say in this case Graves is an example that can build Hullbreaker, but then you can also have champs like Fiora, I guess, who build Hullbreaker, and then you kind of have to like match each other on side lane all the time, similar to like the Banner of Command meta back in the days where, you know, both tops build it and you both have an unkillable cannon minion and you both can't kill it and you need DMAT. And
I just think that there's a line between it being, because you want the item, I think, to be better on side lane and to reward split pushing if that's the goal of it, right? And you want it to be weak enough that you can't just build it without thinking about it, which is obviously the case now. You just slam it without having to think about it. But there also needs to be a middle ground where you don't feel like you've lost the game if you try to team fight with Hullbreaker. And I don't know what that middle ground is, but it sure as hell is not where we're at now. That's what I'll say.
Mid and top both have Hullbreaker. Support has Hullbreaker too.
Okay, actually, I was actually thinking about it. Okay, hear me out, right? Like, I think 2 days ago, I had this random thought that what if the AD carry builds Hullbreaker, right? He builds Hullbreaker. Say, I don't know, like say Jinx Aphelios is out of the game. And you buy Hullbreaker. And the moment you finish buying Hullbreaker, your support just roams. What are the enemy bot going to do? They can't dive you because you're tanky. You have more HP, right? And you have a massive cannon minion just hitting the, you know, and then
you have Demolish as well.
This is the thing.
Exactly.
Have you ever seen top lane Hullbreaker Aphelios?
No.
It was a cheese. I just saw a thread on it, and I'm a big Aphelios fan, so I read, but it's actually disgusting, because think about it. Aphelios with a stupid white gun just eats towers for breakfast.
Yeah,
if you give him Hullbreaker, he's just unkillable on a side lane.
What about if it's a good AD carry champion that can 1v2, something like Draven?
Hullbreaker, Draven have also seen
Hullbreaker, Draven, AD carry.
The thing is that you don't get attack speed analyzer, right? So you need a champion that either like it deals a lot of damage, so you get like the lifesteal rune, like the
Bloodline.
Yeah, Bloodline. Plus, you need to be able to buy Dawn's Blade. Draven could be a good champ for it, you know.
Yeah.
And do you want to leave Draven alone? You could, right? And then imagine you just have a Pyke, and then you start roaming. And I think if people actually start doing that, I don't know if it's good. It was just a random thought that I had. But if people start doing that, I think the item has to be fixed.
And then the Pyke has Hullbreaker too.
No, maybe not.
Oh, no. Here's my pitch. Support Senna. You let the Pyke farm. Your early lane is scuffed as hell. You get a Pyke with friggin' Hullbreaker, and you have Senna roam for souls between each lane. And then you do the Hylissang strat where you just park your Pyke on a side lane with Baron buff, and he's actually unkillable, and he can 1v1 anyone you send over.
There is a tech there somewhere. You're going to have to brainstorm it. You need to get home and draw like a mind map with your team. You need to be that guy, you know, flip the whiteboard, clean everything off, and start Hullbreaker in the middle, circle. AD carry champions.
I mean, I'm open-minded about it. If my AD carry wants to buy it and says, just go roam, I'm going to buy Hullbreaker and 1v2 them.
Yeah.
Wait,
then
are we
you have a...
Is 11? Are we on 11-4 this week? I don't actually know.
Are we on 11-4 this week?
I think there's a new patch.
Our excuses were off this week, so
yeah,
we
our
don't
excuses
need...
we're not actually casting this week, so...
There's a new patch for sure.
Yeah, we're on 11-4 this week then,
There's
I guess. 12-4.
There's the Aatrox buff and the set buff and...
Aatrox
No,
buff.
okay, I was just checking because I was like, maybe... I live a patch behind. I think probably like you do for the most part. Or you live in between patches because you play a lot of solo queue. So I just usually don't read the next patch until it's about to be in pro because I just try not to think about it. And I mostly play ARAM, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
All I'll say is Renata.
We're excited. We went on a whole rant about
Renata. Is
Renata.
Renata enabled this weekend,
Probably
I wonder?
Not. I assume next week. But wait, is she enabled this week?
I don't think she is.
Okay, I think it's next week. Why? We shouldn't be asking. Well, I shouldn't be asking this.
We're the ones asking him. We're off this week.
But there's no Hullbreaker nurse. Just double checked that. So anyone who was wondering if you're going to see it more, the answer is yes.
I just realized something.
Break it, and they will nerf it. That's what I'll tell you. That is my commitment to you.
Nico buffs on hit Nico Hullbreaker. Something like this.
But does the clone count as an allied champion within 1400 range? Is it coded that way? And is she going to break her own
Wait, does
Hullbreaker?
Wukong W cancel your Hullbreaker?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I think who played? Someone played Wukong. I think it was Armut.
Someone played Wukong Hullbreaker.
Yeah, and I don't think I've seen it getting cancelled. Maybe I'm wrong.
Can you Hullbreaker Shaco and then have both the clone and actual Shaco have Hullbreaker?
Damn, we're really reaching deep here. Drakos is going to queue up tonight with his hidden tech. He's like, I'm going to get rank 1, wins his 4 games, comes home, he's the dawn of everything, and then he loses them. He's like...
Yeah, okay, well, if you know how I work, you know that I brainstorm, think it's genius, get in, remember that my hands are bad, and I'm like, wait, I can't play Hullbreaker Shaco. I'm just going to not queue at the right time and die anyway.
And then there's like, the camera pans and there's like this bucket list of Drakos ideas, and it's like the bin's just full to the top.
So true. To be fair, though, I never told anyone to play Smite Bard mid lane because I think it's trash, and it was trash, and it still got played in the PCS anyway. Yeah. So that one I will not take the blame for.
Yeah, and then LJL played the Smite Poppy top. What do you think about the Smite Poppy and the Smite shop? Because I always want to say we've finished on the last tangent here, but EU hasn't seen it once yet.
Okay, now I have to say I'm like, you guys know me. I'm a really big fan of like weird strats and like weird champions be played. And it was really funny because I did play with Rosorg in a game in solo queue. I was playing Pyke top lane with Smite. And I was just like running around ganking people with Pyke and messing with other people, which is really funny. Like, it's really fun to play if you're the top laner. But I think a lot of everyone else just hates to play with it. And Rosorg also really hated to play with it. He was really not mad, but like more frustrated about the strategy just being in the game. And I think it is not healthy. I also dislike it, but it's fun to play. You know, it's like a fresh little breeze of like different playstyle as a top laner, because a lot of times, especially nowadays, that you can't TP anywhere else, right? And I think that also already took like a lot of creativity out of the game. Because if you had Prior on top, you could stack a wave and then dive bot instead of just diving top lane, right? But nowadays you can't do that, so people just take Smite and run around anyway, which is, in my opinion, also not healthy for the game. It is. I did want to play it. I did say to our coach, let me play it. I'm going to dictate the whole game. We're going to win in like 15 minutes. And he's like, no, we can't do that. You know, it's like going to get nerfed anyway, which is like, it's fine, right? Because you do kind of want to play to get better, not just to win. I mean, to win 2 games is like nice, right?
So that's TSM. They love it.
Yeah, they only play that. And I don't even think they're playing it that well, right? Like they did play it better now. I've seen them diving bot, which is really good. That's how you should play that. And then I think EG played it as well with Karma, and Karma was running alone in the river, getting ganked by Xin Zhao in the river and just dying. That's not how you're supposed to play that strategy, right? Like you're supposed to. Wait,
are you sure I'm not supposed to just run into the river and die, BB? That's not part of it.
I mean, I think it's like it sounds easy, but like once you actually play that, you don't always know what to do, right? Because it's like as a top laner, you usually just lane and farm, but you really need a different mindset. You want to support others, and first you want to use your Smite, obviously, for your jungler to clear faster, or you want to annoy the enemy jungler, right? Which you can't do alone. Like you can do it level 1, but you can't do it after because you're just going to be level 1, 2, and he's going to be level 4 or 5. So you do want to run around with your jungle or with your bot lane. But but I think that's the thing that most people don't know, and then they just run around alone and just die, and then it looks really bad.
But then they're like, objective bounties, forehead.
Exactly, yeah. And I think nowadays people just go, like, the Hullbreaker is even better now in that strategy, and they all go demolish, and then your tower is just dead. And I think if the top laner is good, if he's a good player, he's just going to carry the game, no matter what champ. If you're just had 3k gold, 4k gold out of just default, then you're just going to win. And I think that is the counter to the strategy, right?
The funniest thing about me into this strategy is, like, you know the song, I'm at a payphone, with the meme and the guy's just dancing and the woman's like banging on the window, that meme. That's what I imagine every Smite top player is listening to while he's running around the map.
I mean, it's one of those things that's like, I think there's so many instances of League of Legends where it's like, damn, this is fun to play. But then everyone who has to play against it is like, stop, you absolute degenerate. Like Akali, when she first came out, people were like, these mechanics are sick. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have any counterplay. No part of this is enjoyable for me, the person playing against Akali on release. Like, it's tough.
It must be fun to lane 1v0 though, as a top laner though. It's like, guys, you're going to get dove, but I'm 1v0. So I'll take 2 towers.
You just say, just play safe, right? And then they just get dove on the tower. But I mean, you can't really do much as a top laner. Like, I think there was a C9 game where he tried to TP bot on that one play.
C9, Pepe Hands.
And then he got dove anyway. I don't think that's good. You should just be really selfish against that strat. But I think it did get nerfed as well. Like, I think it's like pretty much out of the game.
Yeah, they did. They took it down. They did like a pretty ham-fisted change, I think, and they said they had in the patch notes they said they had a plan for like a more holistic systems change to stop stuff like this from happening. But in the short term, they just had to be like, bam.
Yeah.
Just like, you touch a minion, you're never getting gold or XP ever again. I don't remember what the
they did it 12.4. They did some support gold item income changes.
Yeah, basically just, again, ham-fisted. Kind of like when they got rid of Funnel, when they were just like, do not touch jungle item. Bad, you know, like these kind of things.
Yeah. Cool.
Anywho, that was when they added in the X or the gold bounty for minions, that if you had farmed too many jungle camps, you got reduced gold for minions. That was that change, which killed Funnel pretty much. I
miss the days of was it the G2 finals against OG where they played Xayah, Rakan, Funnel?
Yeah, that was random. Wasn't that random as hell too? Because like so Funnel was like mostly gone at that point.
Yeah, it was mostly gone. That was cool though.
I just remember what it was. It was like Taric. There was a counter to the Funnel. Oh no, it was Varus Blitzcrank was the counter to the Funnel bot lane, because you all in them over and over again, and you just never give them a second.
Wait, was that the Taric Sona bot lane?
That was the counter that OG tried against whatever Funnel bot lane G2 played, was the Varus, and then I think they kind of messed it up and it did not work.
League is wacky.
League is wacky, which is a great point. And speaking of League being wacky, let's talk a little bit more about G2 or G2.0 or 3.0 or whatever.
G3.
No, because I think Carlos is probably pretty attached to the 2. G2.5. It says 2.0. We'll go with 2.0. G2.0. Talk to me about like the off-season process. You got to drive a garbage truck, it seems like. Whatever that video was, I don't remember that. I just remember the picture of you in the garbage truck.
Wait.
What garbage truck? Wait.
Okay, forget my garbage truck comment. Maybe I misread that. I don't remember. Never mind. Am I fever dreaming live on the show? We'll never know. Anyway, you joined G2. What was that process like?
Well, it was like this offseason I did talk to many teams actually. But G2 was the most interesting for me because I just liked the whole organization, the amount of like reach they get, also just the players that were in. I was really big fan of Caps and Jankos. And once we started talking, they were like really serious with, okay, we're going to start really early. We're going to play the Worlds teams. And I was like, wow, that's like a team who wants to win, right? And I have the goal of wanting to win. So why would I not take that as an opportunity to get even better, play against the Worlds teams? We played against the Worlds finalists at the time.
How were the scrims? Were they good?
The scrims were good. It was a lot of fighting, honestly. But it was really, really fun. We also scrimmed like till very late sometimes. It depended on the Worlds teams, on how much they wanted to scrim. And we were like really down to scrim as well, right? Because you don't really get the opportunity as a team who wasn't at Worlds to just scrim those teams, right? There was also this team McDonald's with, I think,
Leader and Wonder,
like Mickey Leader.
Exactly, right? And they also scrimmed those teams. And I'm sure it was just as fun and as like helpful for them, just for us. Maybe a bit less for them because it wasn't like really 100% serious. But for us, it was like really serious, right? Because there was like a whole org behind it. And I think that was also a reason why we picked up the players that we picked up, right? Like our bot lane, we had the chance of being able to play with them for a whole month. Like we tried on many other like rookies as well, and also non-rookies, I think.
So just a quick question there. We said tried out. You meant tried out rookies in the bot lane. So you're trying to like figure out which bot lane you wanted as you being the starter on G2 as the top side?
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
So we did try a lot actually, because we had the time, we had the opponents to scrim, we had just everything build up for us to have the best possible outcome. And I think we did get the best possible outcome for us. At least that's what we decided at the time. And I think I am very happy with when we started scrimming. I think there were people saying, "Oh, we're gonna burn out." Like some of my friends that told me, "You're for sure gonna burn out because you scrimmed so much already." And I don't think so, because I think it's all about perspective and how you see it. And we did also obviously take breaks. It's not like we scrimmed like 2 months straight up until like LEC started. We obviously took breaks. There was also this winter break. And that's basically how I got picked up. It was very, very early. I committed very early to G2, even though I may have had other opportunities for other teams, but I was really happy. I'm still very happy that I'm here. And I think it could have gone a little bit better. I think right now, I think last week, if we went 0-2, I would have a really different mood. Obviously, we are still in a good standing. We are at 8-5. But I would be more happy if we were at 10-3, you know.
It stings, doesn't it? You come off like an official game of losing to like, I don't know, we'll just say SK as an example, and you scrim them the next week and you just join the lobby. It's like that, just like a sour taste in your mouth where you're like, you know you can beat them in scrims, but you lost them on stage and it's just, oh.
I mean, that's why I think like the thing is, the funny thing is if you lose games in scrims, it's mostly the first game, right? And then we had this like little excuse, okay, it's fine guys, we'll get them at best of 5. Because we do win most of the scrims. I did mention it a bit before, not in the podcast, but we do win, I think, like 70% usually. That's already a really high number. And I think we may be the best team in scrims. I'm not sure. Obviously, there's always this scrims don't matter stuff, but I don't really care about it anyway. Like, it obviously matters that you win on stage. I do agree. But that's why I'm also not concerned, you know. Like, I'm not concerned of not being able to win the whole thing, because I do think that we are doing really well. And I don't know how good we're going to be in best of 5s, but I do have very high hopes, because we are just, I think, as I mentioned, I think out of the whole non-Worlds teams, right? I'm not counting the Worlds teams. We scrimmed. I think we lost against one team in a best of 5, right? Like 5 games block. So I am very looking forward to what we can do, you know. And obviously we want a strong finish. And I think we can get a strong finish. Obviously, there's still so much to learn. Every patch, the Hullbreaker, I think we actually got really late on the Hullbreaker. It was like the last day we scrimmed, and then the enemy team, because most of the time we are winning scrims, right? So it was like Hullbreaker just never mattered. And then there was this one day where Hullbreaker was like, wow, I can't lane, guys, I have to buy this item, you know? And I think C9 actually like had one time, I think it was last year, where they were also winning a lot of scrims, and then they had this one time where they were losing a lot of stage games, and they were blaming it on winning a lot of scrims, right? I don't know if you remember, it was the Sven Volken Blabber roster. Yeah, it's still very exciting, you know.
It's always better to win scrims though, because I guess you can say lose is improved, but if you're losing a majority of scrims, then you know something fundamentally is wrong. But if you're winning a majority of scrims, something fundamentally is right, I suppose, right? It's just the middle ground of we need to lose enough to learn, but we need to win enough to have confidence, right?
It's that gray area, because if you win everything, you probably don't learn much, because you're just getting away with anything you want. Unless you're like super disciplined playing, you know, peak, which let's just not even say that's possible. I don't even want to entertain that idea. Or if you're losing all the time, it's just got to be super horribly demoralizing. You need some kind of light there. But you kind of, I'm curious what is the big focus right now for the team? Like, what is it that you guys are working on? Because are you struggling at all to transition some of what you're doing in scrims to stage games? Because like you did have the 0-2 week. Like, what is the big focus right now for G2 to make sure that you can be 80% win rate like all the time?
I think the most important thing always is like you always come into the week with a preparation of what you want to work on, right? I think that should be for every team, and we always have that as well. And we believe that week we have to focus on that. For example, obviously I can't go into detail, right? But I think most of the time the goals that we are trying to achieve, we most of the time get it in most of the scrims, even if it doesn't work in the beginning. I think, as I said, I think everyone here in my team at least is very open-minded. There's not much emotions going on into the game. Obviously, sometimes you get frustrated about losing, or like even when we are winning a lot, when we are losing, we also get frustrated about it, which is not a bad thing, right? If it's not negative. And I think that's really nice to see, actually. It's not like, oh, we're winning 4 games a day anyway, that one game that we lost doesn't matter. When the one game we lost actually mattered the most, for example, right? And we always have this one saying, like, last game matters, right? So we always don't want to lose the last game.
It's mental edge.
Yeah,
it's the mental
exactly.
edge. Because even if you lose the first 4 games, if you win the last one, it basically counts.
You're leaving
exactly, right? And I think that's the good thing about our team. We always have like these funny memes going on as well, which lights up the mood as well when things are going bad. And I think Jankos is doing a great job with that. Flacket is actually really a really funny person as well. And Kev's always doing his like little cheeky little comments, right? Same for me.
How is it to play with Caps, actually? Because I mean, he is, like, in everyone's eyes, the best player the West has ever had in mid lane. Is it an experience? Have you learned a lot from him? And do you talk a lot about solo lanes? Do you ever 1v1 each other?
Yeah, I 1v1 Caps actually sometimes when it comes. Like, I think we 1v1 when was it? He wanted to play like a really creative matchup, right? Like a champion that I cannot say right now. But he was like, I'm just gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this strat, and it's gonna work, and we're gonna win the game, right? And I was like, sure, let's try it out. And then we tried it out, and it actually worked. And obviously, it wasn't like a scrim game, so we couldn't actually. But his theory was like, he's very creative as a player. He's very, like, the thing about Caps, I think, is when he's happy, when he's in his zone, right? Then he has like million ideas and like million ways to actually win you the game. But whenever he gets like, I think, less happy, what I notice is like that he's talking less. There's less options that he wants to talk about. But most of the time that doesn't happen, right? But that's something I noticed. Very, very creative, like very mechanically skilled as well. And it's really fun because I can just talk to him, hey, let's play this random champion. And he's like, yeah, I can flex it, you know. And
of course you can.
When I would compare him with, I think, Bjergsen, right, which was also a very, very great mid laner, I think Bjergsen was more controlled and less doing random stuff, right? And I think both options are really great, obviously. And I think both are really, really great players. I do think that both are different in a way. And I really like to work with Caps because I think he's like very similar in terms of like personality, but also the way he plays the game. I think he's very open to just trying out stuff and like most random stuff. And even in the games, he's like always goofing around, which is like really funny. Like, for example, we played a game. It was like also the Fimble Winter Rise. I think it was it against Misfits or something? He was like, oh, I'm gonna just tank the damage, gonna see how much damage I can tank, you know, in an official game, by the way. I was like, hey, let's calm down, you know, let's finish the game. He's like, oh, I'm gonna ult us in the base, you know. I'm like, sure, let's do it, you know, which is like Caps. Really good. It's like really nice to see, you know. He always brings in like the funny vibe, and I think it's just great, you know. Like I've been enjoying every moment so far with not only him but also everyone in the team. Like they all have their own way of like being happy, their own way of showing how they're happy. And it's great, you know.
That's cool. I like how excited you are about it, man. It's like super cool. I love seeing you smiling this much. On the subject of you talking about like you come in, you set these goals every week. Obviously, last week was like, in terms of staging, it was really tough. It was like the 0-2. Do you feel like, can you share what your goals were for last week? It's hard because I obviously want to know as much as possible, but also don't want to give away anything that would hurt you in the weeks to come. But like, what were your goals last week? Did you meet them? Because I'm curious if even in the face of like what was a very difficult stage week, you guys are still like hitting the progress that you want to hit.
Well, I can say at least that in scrims that we met the goals that we had towards the end. It's always like the main goal to like, it's unrealistic to always have 100% of what you're working on, right? But you do want to work on something.
Can you share like a sample goal? Like it can be made up in the realm of like either something that because you've worked with Dylan before, maybe it was a goal that Schalke had or something that's like not relevant to give anymore, just so people understand. Because is it like speak more, or is it like be better at Baron? Is it like what kind of goals do you set?
Like an example, like a very general example is like not getting caught in mid lane, in mid game as well. For example, a lot of time AD carries or the mid laner are in mid game, and then especially against teams like Fnatic, they always want to fight mid. AD carries mid, I go mid, we fight mid. That's what they do usually. Which is also a good strat, right? But they do it really well, so it's really important to be cautious about it. And sometimes that's going to be your goal for the week. And even if you're doing it well already, if you've set the goal to like have it 0 deaths in 5 games in getting caught in mid, that is already very, very good, right? Did we achieve those goals, like the goals that we practiced in last week? I don't think so, right? Because we obviously lost the game.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't lose the game because we got outplayed or something. We actually we did get outplayed, but like in a different kind of manner, right?
Yeah.
Not in like terms of mechanics, but in terms of like just how they played, right? So I think working on those goals, I don't actually know what will be our goals for this week because we didn't scrim yet. But we are gonna, like, probably when I go home, we're gonna talk about it, right? And also everybody has, like, every week, the good thing is, like, everybody has their own kind of ideas of what they want to do, what the champions they want to play. So also when I think, for example, if you want to be my teammate and I think you like it died a lot in this specific matchup, I'm gonna tell you, right? I'm gonna tell you, oh, hey, I think you died a lot. Maybe you should like tune it down a little bit. You know, like, what do you think the problems are? I'm not gonna just tell you just stop inting, right? Because that would be very unproductive, which does happen in a team environment, and I think that's not good. And I think that's the good thing about our team, that we can actually openly talk about it. And if, say, you disagree with me, right, you can openly talk to me about it, because I'd like to have a conversation about it anyway. Because if you think that's not a problem and I think it's a problem, that is already a problem, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what usually happens at the start of the week. And in the middle of the week, you experiment a little bit. At the end of the week, you usually want to play in scrims the draft and the play style, how you want to play on stage. And it's good because in the beginning, I think, of all, like, just scrimming, it wasn't like that. But nowadays, there's, like, always, like, this rhythm, this pattern of, like, just practicing, which is good.
I think it's very clear to just kind of say, it sounds easy to just, this is what we're working on, this is our results in scrims, plug on stage. But it's a very up and down, rocky kind of process sometimes in the weeks, where you come in with an expectation, it wins on Monday, you play on Wednesday a scrim block, and if you've already found something that's broken it, or like there's a champion that you've kind of like overlooked that people are doing, or Hullbreaker on a Friday warm up or a Thursday scrim block where you're like, wait a second, Hullbreaker's OP. So then all of a sudden you have to like have a lot of discussion where it's like, this has been working, but this looks really strong. What do you want to do on stage? Maybe do it in warm ups before the game and then decide. So sometimes it can be a little bit last minute. Good weeks, it's very kind of smooth, but sometimes the transitions are very rocky. I
do have to say something about that, actually, about the last minute thing. When Tank Akali was a thing, right? We never actually played in scrims. And I did play in solo queue. My like, Dylan was like, dude, look at this win rate. It is OP, right? And I was like, sure, I'm going to try it in solo queue, right? And I think the day before that, I played like 6 games. And then I just played on stage and I won midnight, right? And I think those kind of things happen. But you also need the confidence to play those champions, right? And also, I think what is really important is just practice. Practice makes perfect, right? Kinda. So even though we didn't play it in scrims, if you're confident enough in playing something, it doesn't really change much, you know, unless it's like Jace Rise, where you want to dive top in like a coordinated way, or like you want to play Ophelios Trash and also dive bot, or Pyke TF. That needs coordination, right? But when you want to play a champion that, like Hullbreaker, just got OP, and actually it was like similar, right? Because it was like very late into the week. And we're like, I'm telling Dylan, I'm gonna buy Hullbreaker no matter what, right?
Yeah.
And I actually didn't end up. Did I end up buying it? I didn't end up buying it in both of those games, actually, because I played Jace one game, and I don't think it's too great on Jace, especially not against Camille. And I think the other game I played Gwen, and then on Gwen. Yeah,
Gwen can't
maybe not
really,
so good, right?
Can't really build Hullbreaker unless you fancy it.
I would have bought it if the situation would have been
actually,
good.
Looking at your champions, there's not many you would build it on. Jace, Gwen, Yone, Akali, Aatrox, maybe.
I think you could build it on Aatrox. I think you could also build it on Jace. I did build it.
Armut did it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's not bad. But there was actually one game. I think Odomna played Graves into Camille. And I think into Grace as Grace into Camille, I don't think you should rush Hullbreaker.
True damage?
Because one because of the true damage. 2, you win lane because you just like go on top of the wave and trade her. And when she trades you back, she doesn't have sustain, right? And usually you buy lifesteal. And I think if you were to rush either Shield Ball or Eclipse, right? Which many people go Eclipse nowadays, I think you're just gonna like stomp her in lane. You know, I don't even think that matchup is good for Camille. You have to gank the Grace, and I think that game Grace was like 4 melees. That's what you want as Grace, right? And I don't think you need Hullbreaker to actually win at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the few cases where I wouldn't have bought Hullbreaker. But yeah, most of the time it's just
okay. So don't buy Hullbreaker 90% of the time. Yeah. But there's 10%. But trying to understand the item and look at the context for anyone watching.
I was also thinking about counters to this strat, right? And I thought, what if people start playing Vayne top with Hullbreaker? She deals true damage to you, but she doesn't take
cut the tape, cut the episode. Oh no. Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense though, especially into when things like Aatrox are coming meta. Maybe things like that can work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm always the type of guy who tries to counter the meta and still plays the meta, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're confident in something, in counter picking something, but the enemies are not, they're not going to pick it. So basically, you have a counter that the enemy doesn't have, right?
Yes, one step ahead, basically.
Which is also, especially when you practice something that is not known. Like, that is why I love picking Yone, for example, into Graves. That is why I love picking like champions like Vayne and Soul. Yeah, I pick it all the time if I think it's good. Because once you do practice it and you think it's actually good and it's not troll, the enemy is he's gonna less likely be able to play against it. And two, you're just gonna, know how to play it, and he doesn't know how to play against it.
We were talking about this. This happens all the time in fighting games. Is that people hate playing against people who play like low tiers because they're just like they know exactly what they're doing and you have no idea what they're doing, and that's like a huge edge that they have, and in your case, an edge that you have because you know exactly how much damage Yone does. You know exactly what your limits are. Graves knows what Graves does. You know what Graves does. Graves has no frickin' idea what you do. It's also doubly annoying because if I beat a Yone top as a Graves, who gives a crap? I beat a Yone top. But if I lose to a Yone top as a Yone top, it's like, damn, that's embarrassing, bro. You just lost to a Yone top.
It's like you know how the matchup works on both sides, but they only know how it works on one side, kind of, right? And then the funniest thing is when you beat them with that champ, then they're rethinking as well. And you know you made them rethink. And they're sitting there, and you go into game 2 of the scrim game, and they like pick it on 3 red side and ban that champ, and it's like,
yeah, that happens a lot. Happens a lot, actually.
They realize it's counter, but they don't know how it works just yet. But they have to play it, so you've kind of taught him, you know.
Yeah, I wish we saw more of this. I like that you pick weird stuff. I wish more people would do it. I get why. Like, there's always argument. It's like, how much do you want to prioritize your scrim time? And I imagine it also means that you have to be willing to play just a lot more solo queue if you want to be able to keep up what is like a conventional meta champion pool and also Yone top. you know, like.
I mean, most of the time, the meta champs are easier to play than non-meta champs.
Sure.
I think that's just because people usually like to tend towards that's why I think Renekton's plays so much, because it's just easy and always good in certain scenarios. Maybe not nowadays because they got nerfed. And Hullbreaker is like kind of strong. Even though I do think you can buy Hullbreaker on that champ as well. And on mid, it's like mages a lot of the time right nowadays. Not as much like Zed or Aurelia mid. It's not like when Aurelia was like OP, people picked it, right? But only because it was OP. Nowadays, Aurelia is only picked into certain matchups. Same for like bot lane. Usually, only see 2 to 3 champs anyway in the meta, which is like crazy in my opinion. I would really love to see more AD carries instead of just 2. And then when those 2 are out, it's most of the time it's Ezreal or Jhin or like those kind of champs.
Just these really safe, standard, boring.
And maybe it's because that's just how the game is built, right? But it has been in the game for a long time where the AD carries are just usually the least amount of different champions picked.
Sure. Looking forward, kind of segueing away from like the more meta talk and talking more about what's in front of you. 2 weeks left. Week 7, week 8.
It's crazy that there's only 2 weeks left, isn't it, of the entire split?
Really nuts. So this week you play Misfits and BDS. One of those teams, obviously kind of scary. BDS will say underdog. And then your super week is XL Vitality Rogue. Like, what is the goal? What is the focus coming into these last 2 weeks of games? And again, like, I asked that in the worst way possible because we literally just talked about goals, and I don't want you to give away anything else. How do you feel about the upcoming matchups? What's your read, and like, where are you guys? What do you think is like a realistic expectation for where you guys can finish?
Well, I'm definitely very excited for that week because I think we are playing like especially the super week, because we lost against 2 of the teams that we're playing. I think Rogue and Vitality, right? And those 2 losses were really, really sad losses. Like, we got stomped both games, and I'm very salty about it. And I do want to win, like, really badly. And I think it's not the easiest week, of course, if you look at the standings, right? But I think we are capable of beating every single one of them. Even if sometimes we're gonna have to put up a fight. I think Misfits game was gonna be interesting, and I think the Vitality and Rogue game is gonna be really interesting. And it's gonna depend on how XL plays. But I think every of those games are really winnable. I'm very confident, at least, in those games.
Yeah, and by the sounds of it, we talked to Upset about this a little bit, like playoffs. You've mentioned XL a lot. You mentioned Vitality, G2, Rogue, Fnatic, and that kind of leaves Misfits as well. That means Mad Lions wouldn't be in playoffs. This kind of idea floated around a week or two ago as kind of like, oh, they might miss it. Then last week came a little bit more serious, and now after this weekend, it's kind of like, wait, Mad are actually probably going to miss playoffs. What do you think?
I think they are missing it. This split. It's either them. I think XL is actually going to make it. I think if someone is not going to make it, it's probably Vitality or Mad Lions. I think XL has this really motivation of like getting there for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. Like I think that kind of a motivational boost is actually more important than sometimes raw talent, right? Because I think that can like the momentum of that can like lead you to just I think they need 2 wins.
XL are 7-6 right now, so 2 wins would be safe. 1 win could do it.
Yeah.
But Mad is 5-8, tied with SK Gaming in 7th.
They also play XL Fnatic this week, and then Vitality.
So I think Mad plays XL Fnatic
this week, and then Vitality next week is game 1. Their last 2 opponents are BDS and Astralis. But I feel like their fate's already decided before they even get to those last 2
That Mad
games.
XL game could determine it.
It's intense.
What do you think of Mad Lions as a team overall? A little bit kind of touching on scrims, but not so much results or anything, just holistically as a team. How have they been this split to you?
I mean, they beat us 1 time in the split, and there was also like a really that was like when we played Caedrel and Yumi. That was really funny.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I think they are not. I feel like they don't have a how do you say? How Fnatic has their bot side, how we have our top side. They don't have a strong side, I feel like if they win games, they usually win games by EUphoria, like carrying. I felt like he had really, really good Diana performances in the early weeks. But I think after that, he's like kind of silent. And I think actually Unforgiven is playing well. I think more so, I think Rika has been some underwhelming performances. Even though I think he was like before the split started, I thought he was going to be really good because I actually thought he was really good, right? He maybe is not too confident enough. That's what I think about some rookies, that if they lack confidence, that they're just going to play a lot worse. And I think maybe that's what he's lacking, right? I don't know. But I think they lost 2 strong players, which was Humanoid and Caedrel, right? And Caedrel is not doing as well either, right? But I think they did lose strong points, and I think Unforgiven is doing well in replacement, and I think Rika is less so. And maybe that should be like a motivation for him as well, to be better. And I think he does get a lot of criticism, but I think the team is trying, which is something that's very important, right? And I hope they make it. I would because I like Armut, right? He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I always like to win against him, even though I actually almost I think I had my first win against him last game against him, and in Schalke I think I've never beaten him once, and I was always salty about it, because I always wanted to beat him, right? And
now you want to play him in a best of 5 as well, probably then, just to make sure that you get him this year, but maybe he doesn't even make it this time.
It would be nice, like I love playing against him. I love the banter, and I can do that really well against him because I know him for a long time.
Yeah.
So it would be sad if they wouldn't make it. I'm definitely cheering for them to make it. If they're gonna make it, I'm probably not, right? But
yeah. It's interesting how we were talking about like earlier on the podcast about team identity, strong side, weak side, this and that. And I guess Mad Lions is one of those teams that just doesn't have the identity yet because they were trying so many things this year. Like this split, they tried like Renekton Irelia mids, they tried the Corki mids, they tried the carry tops, they tried the tank tops.
Well, and it's also just like obviously this is a year of rebuilding for so many teams. G2, Fnatic, Vitality, Mad, obviously Rogue as well, and it just feels like, and a lot of teams lost good players, and a lot of teams are, in the case of Vitality, is obviously just completely rebuilt. But it just feels like Mad got the short end of the rebuilding stick in terms of results right now. We'll see what their ceiling looks like, but like it just sucks for them, I think, especially because public perception is also just like stacked against them because like G2 rebuilt, they're doing pretty well. Fnatic rebuilt, doing pretty well. Vitality, score's not great.
They're on the edge right now.
But they're on the edge, right? But if they make, as long as they make playoffs and show up in best of fives, people are going to give them that. And like Rogue, also the kind of the big surprise of the offseason. So it just feels like in this split that's entirely about rebuilding, like any number of these teams could have bombed out. Like maybe if the vibes were terrible in the offseason and you did burn out, and I'm glad that didn't happen. But like you never know with so many of these teams. But it just feels like Mad. It really sucks for Mad because I I think in a world where everyone is struggling on brand new teams and everyone's struggling to find their footing in spring, which I think teams still are, it's just like they're getting wins on stage. You know what I mean? I think they'd get a lot more forgiveness, but because they're like former champions and they kind of suck right now, it's just like people are ruthless because like every other team figured it out. It feels like so quickly, at least in terms of how to get wins on stage. Because if you had told me that like you and G2 would be at the top, like you were in, we'll review our tier list at some point. You and G2 were like, bam, right up there. We were like, it's going to be Fnatic, Vitality, easy, super team, and then like G2 Mad are like right behind that. That's what we expected. We're like, oh, we'll have to see how Flacket and Targamas do, but like, bam, look at that top side for Mad.
But then the Mickey Nation attacked.
So it did. So it's weird. This is the thing that caught me the most off guard, I would say, of all the things. It makes sense, especially as we hear more about Fnatic on like what Humanoid brings to the table. I don't know if you've heard, big shot caller. I don't know how much you've heard or how much you've experienced this. This man apparently is like the puppet master
Really?
mid to late.
Yeah.
I've never heard of him talking much.
He's the voice of Fnatic.
Which, I didn't hear either. We didn't talk about it in interviews last year because we knew he was the guy that the thing that he always talked to us about was like motivation and like wanting to find that. But then the Fnatic boys are all like, no, you don't understand. He's like, we're playing this side of the map. We're playing that side of the map.
Actually, now that I remember, I think Armus said one time that his mid laner was like really smurfing.
Yeah.
Like last year, right?
Yeah.
When I did talk to him, or when I was like, how's your new team, right? And he was like, actually now it makes sense because it's probably true when there's like so many people saying something, right? Then it must be somewhat true, right? At least.
But I think that sucks even more for Reeker then, because when I knew Reeker was joining the team, he just had to be a good mid laner. You know, he didn't have to be a great shot caller or a great leader because I didn't think that that's what Humanoid provided. And I just think that makes the situation even doubly hard for him. He's trying to find confidence on an LEC team, already super difficult. He's trying to fill the shoes of a very good mid laner, doubly difficult. He's trying to fill the shoes of a very good mid laner, arguably one of the best performing mid laners in Europe, who also was a late
the voice of the team as well.
Voice of the team.
Caller,
like, are you kidding me, bro?
Resources.
It's like when PoE tried to replace like Bjergsen. Oh my god, that's hard, dude. That's pressure. You know what I mean? Like you just can't. Or XP also tried to replace XPeke. Why has PoE tried to replace so many?
He's replacing all these
mid-laners?
insane mids.
God, I just realized that. Damn. Oh, Tristan
taking their jobs.
All right, he's out there. He's doing work.
Damn, LEC is banging.
LEC is banging. Last thing for this week, I think the Rogue Excel matchup was hype. The matchup I'm most excited about that I can't really ask any questions about because it requires you to leak stuff is Misfits versus G2. I think that is the most...
It's a battle for kind of like... I mean, if you beat them, you can contest second. But if they get one step ahead of you, it's quite annoying to kind of climb back because the head-to-head... I think you have won the first head-to-head. And if they win, then they'll have the head-to-head. Exactly. But if you win, you'll bring them into the even stage and you'll have the head-to-head. So second place is much easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will then depend on Fnatic, right? Because Fnatic is also one win ahead. But definitely, like the first game against Misfits, actually, we had a really solid performance until we didn't, right?
Oh wait, can we reel TikTok? Did you see the video? Shocker has broke down that play, and then I worked with him to write a VO. You're cracked. Everyone thinks it's Flacked. You're insane. I mean, you got away with murder. Did you watch this play?
I did see it.
He bought the stopwatch in comms because Yanko's G2 published the comms. He was playing Renekton.
Renekton, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then like to be fair, Neon griefs it just a little bit. Sorry, Neon, but like you got away with absolute murder. Yeah. Like you biggest hero moment I've seen all season. And at the time, we're just like Flacked for crazy quadra kill, Flacked. Yeah.
I mean, it was like right after the game, we're like full of adrenaline, right? Because right, but. Actually, did it happen? Actually, I don't even know. But anyways, that was like the craziest game we played probably this season. And like I probably wouldn't even have bought so much if Jankos wouldn't tell me because I was like, what just happened, right? Did we just lose the game? And then I'm like, okay, we're gonna go back, buy a Starwatch, and then defend, right? And then I think also if Misfits wants to end, they will end 10 out of 10 times. If this is scrims and they want to end, they will probably end. It was probably just very like heat of the moment. Everybody's pressured.
They were super split, for
panicked. Sure. I mean, they came back from like 12k goal lead.
Yeah.
With the bounties balanced. Anyways.
Balanced.
Anyways, I think I did have really. I took a lot of time, and it just doesn't look as flash, right? Which I don't really care about. But then after the game, Dylan was like, "It's actually we looked at the replay and I was like, holy shit, you know, like BB actually did so much." They said. I was like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you're the MVP.
You're the hero.
You're the hero.
I think that I think that when you look back at the play, like you are definitely the G2 MVP. But also, I think Misfits are watching that play back, like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
like why we're out here just.
They were like really splitting the damage. I think if they all hit me and also Neon doesn't mess up the flash,
the flash auto,
then also it was like really like I think he was about to like two-shot Senna, and while he was like out attacking, Senna killed Jhin, and the auto attack didn't come off. Like there's also scenarios where the auto attack comes off and both die. And like the auto attack animation was like coming off right off, and then he just died. And if that happened, we would probably lost the game as well. So there's like so many scenarios where we could have just
game
lost.
of inches, baby. It's not over till the next explodes.
So are you confident that this time, if you get a 12k gold lead versus Misfits, you won't throw it or almost?
Was it G2 last year against Misfits where they got an Elder and then just aced them and then won when they were 10k down?
We guessed that too, didn't we?
Yeah. Misfits has some banter. TF has some banter with G2.
And I think also we had a really hard early game comp. We had Ryze, Renekton, dive top, which we did. They got in the late game. They won a fight. Gwen, Cassio against a lot of melee champs, right? And I think if you get a team comp like that again, I'm pretty sure that also we kind of griefed because Cass was calling like, guys, don't push the mini wave so I can ult the mini wave, and then everyone like me, Flacket, and Targums were like hitting the mini wave mid, and then we're like, Jankos was like, guys, you're griefing, stop hitting the wave, and we keep hitting the wave, and I was like, wait, what's going on,
And then, then you understand 2 seconds later, you're like...
And then you understand 2 seconds later what's actually going on, because you just defended the...
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck just happened?
There's literally so much adrenaline in your body, you've reverted to animal status. You're just down the mid. just like...
Exactly.
Like, that's what I think. You know what it is when you win a fight and you feel like you're immortal, or you come off a good league game and you're like, I'm a god, and then you have to remember you're like a level 1 character again, and you're actually just not OP anymore.
And you're dude, the emotions.
That's how I feel. I feel like, what is it? You always say ooga booga. That's what I feel like. Ooga booga. I just feel like complete brain off when I win a fight. Like, let's end. People are like, no, let's take Baron, slow down. I'm like, like cracked out.
Yeah, it was like that actually. And after the game was like crazy, because we were like, oh my god, like how do we even almost get close to losing that game, right? And I think Misfits is a team that again, we did shut down actually Vito that game, because we did level 2 gank him, because I think we dodged the ward and then roam top again. And I think if we are going to do that again, if we're going to shut down Vito, probably going to be a quick dub. I'm not gonna lie, guys.
Quick dub, and then are we gonna get this afterwards?
I mean, we always try to do something different, which is good, but maybe we'll see it. I think actually, like if you would have won on stage against Fnatic, we would have had some bangers, maybe.
The celebrations are good. The handshake one, the Sue, I like them.
I mean, it's something that I was like really pushing to do, right? Because I think
I love them.
Like in like football and stuff, they have like celebrations, and I think it's like so cool to see.
It is.
It's like the more stupid it gets, the better. Not only for like it can be cringe. Like I don't care, For me, it's not cringe because you're doing it with like your teammates, right? And if you do it with your teammates, and then you look back at it, you're gonna be like, oh my god, that day, like we did that
that day. Yeah. It's not just another win on stage. It's that day you did the crazy thing.
Yeah. And if you went on stage, we might do some bangers. It will always depend on the opponent as well, on like what we do, right? But also having something like that, it like motivates me to win more, because I want the enemy to tilt of our like, like because it's my enemy. Like I don't care what the enemy thinks about me, right? The more he hates me, the better for me, right?
They're plugging out their mouse their mouse and keyboard. They look over into the middle of the sage, and there you are with the fish hook.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think that's cool. I think Mad Lions did it one time as well, like for a period of time. And I think many, if like other teams would do it, like I would love that. I would love if someone else like does like a victory.
You just innovate it. It's like, well, obviously Mad did it before, right? And then like you guys doing it now, you just have to keep pushing. Because I don't know if you watch Valorant. Boaster, who plays for Fnatic, formerly
shout
out to Boaster, just push for these weird celebrations, and he did it so much when Valorant was young that now everybody just does weird stuff. It's just like the norm now. Just make it the norm, BB. Just keep pushing, dude.
I think it's cool. I was also I was thinking of like some really stupid stuff to do, which I don't want to talk about now. Maybe I'll do it.
I hope we're casting. I hope we're the caster desk and you're on stage in studio so we can see it.
Yeah. I was like thinking about like running around doing some stupid stuff, but like you have to win first, right? Which is the hard part.
Yeah. That's also important.
And we had to talk with Carlos that we should do the Sue anyway. If we win or lose, that would bang his head.
If you lose, you just get up.
Yeah. And I was like, Carlos. Okay, maybe not everyone in the team would like it. You know, if one of your teammates would just celebrate the loss.
Is it even funnier if like 3 of you do it and there's one person like really sad at their desk who hasn't moved? That's funny. It's not good probably for the team, but I can see why Carlos would pitch it. It's very funny.
Yeah. And
I'm looking forward to them. I really am.
I think many teams should do it actually. Like it just brings more joy. Like I think also the fans like it. Like I like it a lot. I also really think that Flacket is playing a big part of it because he also really wants to join in. And I think usually Jankos and Targamos are like the people who like don't want to do it, right? But then we push them like, hey, it's gonna be fun, you know, like let's do it. And then everybody starts doing it, and then it gets more fun. You bond together, right? That's like how you bond actually. And I think I
think it's a great bonding experience. Caps like he's always game for it. He's like, just tell me what to do.
I'll do it. Love that boy.
Yeah, Caps is always down for like funny stuff. So I really like that.
All right, man. Good luck this weekend. I hope you get to show us something on stage, either in draft, in game, or in celebration. You know, in either way. Thanks again for coming on to join us. And if you're watching this and you're a team, do more on-stage celebrations. You know, don't steal ideas. Keep it original.
Misfits G2 is in studio.
Misfits G2. So Misfits, this is your chance. I'm just saying, you should also come prepared with a celebration.
Yeah. And if you lose as well.
Just VTO alone stands up. Everyone else is super sad.
Everyone's crying. They lost like 2nd place or something.
It's not okay.
Bangers.
Anyway, thanks for coming, BB. Good luck in the week. I hope you have good goals to recover from your O2 week coming up to this very banger weekend. We're off this weekend, me and Caedrel.
And Vedius.
Seriously, a lot of new faces. Give love to the new faces. And if you're playing Elden Ring, fellow Tarnished, I'll see you there. That's the nerdiest thing I'll ever say in my life, which is weird because I have Bloodborne tattoos, but it's fine. Very geeky. Anyway, very excited about that. If you win, you should also get it because it's a banger, and I know you haven't succumbed to Lost Ark yet. Everyone should play it. Shameless Elden Ring shill. Anyway, we'll enjoy our week off. You guys enjoy this week of LEC. Good luck to you, BB, and we'll see you all back here before week 8.
Peace.